Aren't you glad you used dial? Don't you wish everybody did? All right, let's see if somebody will come on in here and help me with this production thing. We'll go over and watch the War on Farmers video. Hey, Celestial Gaze. Hi, Krishna. Oh, yeah, man. You got the first like. Cool. So, anyway, I just watched this video. Let's see how long it is. 36 minutes. And it was a pretty good video interviewing a farmer from California, revealing how California is basically at war with farmers and starving them of water, making it impossible for them to continue life as we know it. A lot of farmers are just quitting the business because California makes it so hard to get water and water their crops, and makes the regulation so hard. And the guy said that quite a few farmers are making $135, $150 an acre after all is said and done. That is not very much money. And he also said that they have a brain drain. So if someone wants to come in, let's see, and help me play this video, we can play it and talk about it. Let me put the pin message at the top. Is it a war on gardeners? Andy.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Hi. I like you, buddy.
I like you too, Ace. You're a good friend. You're a good pal. How you keeping? You keeping well, yeah?
Yeah.
Not been well the past few days, so I've not been in to
harass me.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're not harassing me. I'll teach you a lesson you'll never forget.
There we go. Just change my mic settings over. Yeah, so I got this virus, okay, and it really amplifies any kind of ailment you got on your body. It kind of searches and think, right, there's an ailment there in the stomach. Let's amplify that and make that painful. Right. So he's also dislocated his knee, cruciate ligament. Let's bring that one out as well.
Oh yeah.
It just seems to know what to go for. Your shoulder, your feet, your ankles, your knees, your back. Oh my God. It's awful.
Wow.
I'm going to change my light over. I don't like that light setting. How are you then, Ace? You all good, are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Oh my gosh. I went on I'm trying to sort my headgear out. I went on Linda's the other day. First time I've ever done that.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, knucklehead central that was. Absolutely. What a waste of time that was.
Uh-huh.
Oh my.
Yeah, my most thrilling. Let me know when you can hear, okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
My most thrilling time over on Linda's was when I went in on the talking head section, and her and so-called Reverend Tacos gave me a list of 36 things I must do to be saved.
Yeah, I did. I heard it actually. I mean, Ben was there. I mean, talk about Dumb and Dumber. I mean, I don't mean to be crude or anything like that, but I was showing them stuff, from the Strong's Concord. I had it on there, showing them Matthew 25, 46, breaking it down almost word for word in the Greek. They were saying, no, Don't mean that. No, it don't mean that. Well, what does it mean then? Oh, it means that they're going to burn forever. They got the wrong Jesus, Ace. I'm sure they have. They've got they say that we've got the wrong Jesus. I think they've got the wrong Jesus.
Yeah.
Because the Jesus we believe in came to save sinners. The
Well,
Jesus
how about this?
they believe in
Hang
burned
on.
them all in hell.
Let's just not talk about that. Instead, let's say the Jesus we have seems to have a more easygoing personality. The Jesus they have is like totally
Well, it's a failure, Jesus, isn't it?
yeah, he's not just a failure, but he's easily upset.
Yeah.
He can't take a joke.
No, that's right.
He's gonna get you, man. He's gonna get you for good.
And we just play role play now. We pretend that you're God, okay?
Yeah, okay. Let's pretend. I like
blasphemy.
that.
Yeah. And I'm Jesus, okay? More blasphemy. Oh my God, we're gonna burn, aren't we? The hottest part of hell, the lowest part. So you're God and I'm Jesus, okay? And you can see the end from the beginning because that's all part of your, sovereignty, if you like. And are you going to send me down to save only 5% of humanity, knowing full well that that means Satan wins and Adam is more powerful than me, Jesus? Of course you won't. You're God. You want it all, mate. You want 100%.
So did
God
they
doesn't
condemn?
send his son to die on the cross to save only 5%. And that's being kind of generous, actually.
Wow. And so what do you have to do to get into the 5% club?
Oh my goodness me! Jump through hoops.
Oh yeah.
You got to go through the narrow gate, which is actually what they think is the wide gate, because the narrow gate is through Christ, and it's not by works. Because modern day Christendom these days teaches you've got to strive through the narrow gate. You've got to work through that. You've got to earn it. You haven't got to earn it. You just got to. Well, it's all been done. Jesus fulfilled everything. I could just sit back and rest in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Hallelujah. He's done it all for us. That is the narrow gate. The wide gate is I've got to do so. I've got to get out there. I've got to put these banners out and leaflets and knock on these. I've got to get out there saving people. That is the wide gate which leads to destruction. The narrow gate is resting in Christ. It's resting in him. It's tough to do because you think, I've got this great reward. There's something I need to do to earn it. It's been done for you. It's so simple. You just rest. Rest.
Yeah.
Simple. That's the narrow gate. It blows your mind because we've all been programmed, to earn something, we have to work for it. Jesus did the work for us. We can now rest in him. That is the narrow gate. Those guys are on the broad way, I'm telling you, which leads to destruction. We believe that destruction is only like a breaking down of a person. It's the burning off of the unwanted things to reconcile them back to God. That's what that is. Because when I showed Linda and Ben, Matthew 25:46, everlasting punishment, everlasting is aionios. It doesn't deal with time, it's per se. Punishment is colossus. It's the pruning. It's correction.
Right.
No, it doesn't mean that. No, it doesn't mean that. No, it's punishment, Andy. Was it you're a heretic, you are? I've been a Christian for 9 years, said Ben. 9 years. Well, I've been Christian for 40 years. A Christian for 40 years. Don't you think I would have learned a little bit more than you, Ben? Then Linda comes up, no, Andy, you're wrong, Andy. No, I've shown you here, Linda. It's right there. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's wrong? Excuse me? Yeah. So now you're saying that the Bible's wrong. Incredible. Has a lot of them. A lot of these King James Bible believers, they won't be told. They won't take anything else. It's quite incredible.
Yeah. You want to help me produce this show? And I put it in the private chat.
I'll go to bed in about even less than half. Just come in just momentarily just to say hi.
Okay.
I've just come back from work, and I've got to go to bed, and I'm getting up early for work tomorrow morning, and I've got a raging freaking headache at the moment. Again, it's that virus seeking and searching out. Oh, let's piss Andy off. Let's give him some pain. Oh, let's go for the head.
Wow. Sorry about
So,
that, buddy.
it's been with me for the best part of a week now. The stomach's a lot better now, thankfully, but it's just been the headache at the moment, But yeah, I'll hang around until my wife says, right, because I completely. This sounds crazy. I completely wet the bed last night. And what I
Mhm.
mean by wet the bed, I absolutely drenched it in sweat.
Mhm.
I woke up and there was like puddles, just on me. Oh, it was just
Right.
awful. It was awful. Just complete. It's just the virus is coming out, and I'm just soaking the bed. And now we've had to wash the bedclothes, and now they're on the radiators drying. But you've got to go upstairs and put them on the bed, and I'll probably end up soaking them again tonight. So be in the
Mhm.
washing machine again tomorrow.
Well, that could be a good thing. Sweating it
Mm,
out could be
I
a
think
sign
so.
of your body's healing.
Yeah, I just couldn't get warm the other day. I mean, I had a coat on in bed with a bobble hat with a couple of covers on, and duvet, and I was still shivering. I just couldn't get warm. Yeah. Anyway, I think I'm on the mend. Anyway, so there we go. But anyway, Bill's doing a hangout tonight about free will. Hey, did you know, Ace, that we've got free will?
Oh Lord, have
My
mercy.
will is more powerful than God's.
Whatever shall we do
Yeah,
with it?
I
I got
know.
an idea. Let's go to hell and enjoy
Well,
the
Ephesians 1.
options.
Let's tear everyone out there. Just Ephesians 1:11. Get rid of that. In fact, you can get rid of probably a third of your Bible. Just
Mhm.
delete them. Get rid of. You don't need them because we've got free will.
Yeah.
Power. I have the power. He's doing a live stream tonight, and I'm gonna, no doubt, I'm gonna be ripping that one a new arsehole tomorrow. All right.
Mhm.
My car's going in the garage tomorrow. I'm gonna spend a shitload of money on it trying to sort this problem out. Cost me loads of money. Donations down below, please. So I've got a bit of time off in the afternoon, and Bill's going to do a hangout tonight, which I'll be critiquing tomorrow, and I will probably be ripping it a new arsehole.
Yeah.
So watch out for that one. Coming to a town near you. It gives me something to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd just be pacing around the house, getting under the wife's feet, and she'll be pissed off. And there we go. Maybe some abuse. Probably beat me up or something. Anyway, Ace, what's this all about then? California's war on farmers. What's going on?
Yeah, I've got a video. I put it in the private chat. I thought we'd play it and watch it because it's a pretty serious problem for everybody likes to eat. Apparently, I've been observing
I like to
lately
eat
that
sometimes.
yeah, and California is just beating the crap out of farmers with their water regulations.
Same in Holland. I mean, they're decimate. They want to shut down 3,336 farms in Holland, and there's 3,336 farms in Holland. They want to shut them all down for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, they just want to starve us. Do you know what, Ace? I kind of got into this whole conspiracy thing some years ago, and it put me in a pretty bad place. And I don't watch the news anymore because it puts me in a pretty bad place. I didn't bother watching the news. So then I go onto the internet and I watch these other, various channels which, you see stories which you would normally get on the news, the BBC, the ITV, and all the rest of them. Watching them, and they would put me in a pretty bad place. So I've just cut everything out of it all. It's a distraction. I'm just going to keep my eyes, whatever the world's going to do, it's going to do. I'm just going to focus my eyes on the Lord because I know that the time is coming. The time is near.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just going to focus on that. That's going to be my focus, not on what's going on in the farmers, what's going on in, in Davos with the WEF or whatever else. I'm going to be focusing on scripture, and Jesus, really.
Smart move, baby.
Well, you said it.
Yeah, I wanted to play this video for the audience so that not that we can do anything about, Gavin Newsom and all the bureaucratic bullshit that goes on in California.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a bit healthy to keep an eye on how crazy the world is. I will say this, I've studied history and economics quite a bit in my life. And imagine my surprise when I learned that 95% of all famines throughout history are actually caused by governments, not by
Really?
drought, but by government regulations. Isn't that something?
Well,
Like,
I mean, if you read in Revelation and Matthew 24, you know, at
you've
some
heard of the
point,
Irish potato famine?
yeah,
That was
yeah,
created by the British government.
British, yeah, it was.
Yeah, the British government created that potato famine, the so-called
Yeah.
potato famine. It was
Yeah.
really a war on people who had property, so they could get rid of them and take over the property.
And the same's happening now. That's what's going on at the moment with the rules and regulations coming out of Davos. You know, I forget what it was. There was someone exposed this to a few months ago. That new rules and regulations are coming out. If you've got a house, you've got to have it properly insulated. If you haven't, then you can get fines. Do you know, like if you drive a car in the UK now, you can get kind of taxed more because of the emissions charge.
Yeah.
They're doing that with cars. Well, they're going to shift it onto houses as well. So if your house doesn't conform, you know, to the right kind of structure, as it were, set out by the people in Davos, you know, because basically everyone looks up to Davos. All the governments look up to Davos. Okay. If you do not conform to their requirements, then you're going to get fined, and you can't sell your house because basically your house is not fit to be sold.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Because
So,
ultimately, what they want to do is to get you out of your house, so they can claim it. Then they want to rent it back to you at a peppercorn rent, kind of. That's what they want to do, because then they've got you by the short and curlies, as it were. That's what they want to do. That is their aim, and we're going to see basically. Well, we've seen it now. Prices are now starting to creep up. You know, the interest rate on mortgages has been very low for the past 15 or 18 years in the UK. Record lows. When I got my mortgage back in 1987, 88, we reached about 15 or 16% on a mortgage. Now it's down to about 2%. It has been down to 2% for quite a number of years now. That's going to creep up. And when that creeps up, people are going to be completely left high and dry. They cannot afford to pay the mortgage on their house. That's happening. That's happening slowly. And it will just keep on happening with the increases in interest rates on the mortgage, the increases in the food in the shops, and everything else going up with it. Your price you have to pay for your electric and your gas, everything, Ace. It's all just going up, and it's come to a point where it's going to be just break everyone. That people, they just can't afford to live anymore. That's where the government's going to come in and say, we've got this great solution.
yeah.
Of course, they're of course, you know, you can stay in your house. Of course, they're going to welcome that with open arms, aren't they? You give us your house and we'll let you have it, you know, at cheap rate. Well, my house, you know, is pretty much all paid for now, apart from the roof on this, I suppose. I've got another few more payments, then I'm mortgage free.
Cool.
It's taken me 36 years, mine, but I'm mortgage free. I will be.
You ever heard of the beard tax?
Seriously?
Yeah, one of the last things the Tsar of Russia did before he was so rudely
strung up
by the communists
British.
of his day. Yeah,
by the
British?
Yeah, and neglected by the British. Yeah.
Well, anyway, he created this beard tax, and I think that's a funny little event. If you grew a beard in Russia, you had to pay a tax, right? And I think that beard tax kind of explains every tax. It's just an excuse for a tax.
Of course.
You know, carbon tax.
Yeah, everything.
Taxing you because your house is not insulated. It's just a damn excuse for a tax. It actually means they are broke. The government is broke and they need more money. So they're coming up with reasons that sound justifiable. We want to save the planet, so we're going to tax the hell out of you.
Yeah. If they could put a meter on you for laughing, you know, a laughing meter. Oh, I've seen that you've laughed. 4,000 times this year, so therefore you owe us £300 or $700 or whatever else, or a farting tax or a belching tax,
Oh my!
or
Don't give
whatever
them the
else.
ideas. They've already got enough
Well,
ideas.
well, if they could put a meter on your backside for farting tax. They would, I tell you. Oh gosh! Oh my gosh! That's what you want, isn't it? A methane tax. They get a shitload of money out of me.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Amazing, isn't it? Well, I guess there's got to be a shit show going on because, I mean, Jesus is going to come back and crush it all. So it's got to get bad. It's going to get bad. As in the days of the Tower of Babel.
Hey, did you see my show the other day in which I don't
Probably.
remember what the show was about, but I gave it the title that I predict Bill will defend free will.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's doing it tonight. He's doing it tonight.
Isn't that hilarious?
Oh, he's doing it tonight. That's what, he was on Ted's yesterday. I wasn't very well last night. I went to bed, reasonably early. And I listened in for a while, and he's going to do one tonight. So I think about another hour's time, or thereabouts, I think Bill's going to start his one up. I just want to listen to it and see. I think he's going to go to one verse. All right, he always uses one verse, and it's in the Old Testament. I can't remember exactly where it is. It might be in Deuteronomy somewhere. I can't remember where it is. And it says something like, choose death or choose life.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I can't remember where it is. I can find it, I suppose, but it's that verse anyway. He
Yeah.
always goes to that verse. So now Bill's going to try and make a doctrine out of one verse, and then there's a few little choosings here, little choosings there. There is a difference between free will and freedom of choice. I've got freedom of choice. Yeah, of course I've got freedom of choice. But why do I choose what I choose? Because our choices are always determined by outside influences, which aren't free.
Mm-hmm.
Only God's got free will. There's only one being in this universe and outside of it who's got free will, and that's God. That's it. Period. So when he's doing all things to the counsel of his choice, his will, his free will, there's no room for your little free will, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it. I've got freedom of choices, but our choices are determined on so many different factors going on. So many.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to think that we got some kind of free will. And is he going to use just one verse? So look, there you go. You got free. Choose life freely. There we go. Look, you got it there. Look. Yeah. We'll forget about all the other 1,600 verses which tell us we haven't in Proverbs and other places. Gosh.
Yeah, a lot of our choices are made. You said we had outside influences going on.
Oh my gosh.
But we also have internal influences going on.
Oh yeah, is that going on as well? Definitely.
There's the influences of the way our neurons work in our brain,
Yeah.
But get this, there's also it's easy enough to demonstrate that a lot of our choices go on because of the bacteria in our gut.
Absolutely. Tell me about it.
Because if you have a lot of candida or some other bacteria that's craving sugar, man, you'll be eating cookies all the time, right?
Yeah.
But if you get rid of that bacteria, magically you're not craving sugar anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, our bodies are to a great degree symbiotic with the parasites that are residing in our bodies.
Absolutely.
So we've got internal influences and external influences.
So I got this big fat piece of cake in front of me. Oh, it's lovely. My favorite big lump of chocolate cake with icing on top. Oh, it's lovely. But if I eat it, I know that in about 4 hours' time, I'll be having to go to hospital because my stomach's absolutely killing me. But I want the cake. What am I going to do? Cake, hospital. Cake, hospital. What am I going to do? Simple choice. Get rid of the cake. I don't want to go to hospital.
JG, there's the link if you want to help me put this video on.
Hey.
In the private chat.
Okay.
Hi, JG. Hope you're well, brother.
Hey, what's going on?
I got stiff neck today.
When you go to the hospital after you eat the chocolate cake, hold on. When you go to the hospital after you eat the chocolate cake, they're going to feed you more chocolate cake. As it's known in the cancer centers that they get Pepsi and chocolate and whatever they want, but it's also known that cancer feeds on sugars.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
All right, let me.
And guess what? Something like 70 years ago, some doctors and researchers experimenting with this and that, they kind of observed and wrote it down in their journal 70 years ago that it seems that cancers love sugars and cancers hate fats, or at least certain kinds of fats.
Okay, yeah, maybe the.
And they didn't know what to do with it 70 years ago, but now with more research out comes this the keto diet and the caveman diet and the Weston Price diet, and the GAPS diet, which emphasizes the importance of fats, because cancer apparently hates fats. Natural fats like avocado and bacon.
Saturated animal fats.
Avocado and bacon.
Bacon. I like bacon, see, but I don't think my stomach would like me for doing it. I like bacon.
But cancer hates some bacon fat.
I got bacon in the fridge.
Oh, invite me over, baby.
My wife said to me this. Sorry, carry on.
I was just gonna say the thing about bacon. You gotta watch out for the nitrates, the added nitrates.
Yeah,
that's the only thing about processed meats. But
there's always something, huh?
My wife said to me this.
Well, you can find some bacon without it though.
Yeah. Anyway. But the wife said to me this morning. She says, "Do you want a bacon roll?" I said, "No, I love a bacon roll. I can't." So, in actual fact, I was good this morning because I had a bell pepper. This is my breakfast, mind. A bell pepper with raw carrots, raw broccoli, and some mackerel in olive oil. That was my breakfast this morning.
Very nice. Congratulations. That sounds like the perfect
it's all right, wasn't it?
Weston Price Mediterranean diet. Yeah.
That's good. That was, yeah. That's nice. I stuck a middle finger up to cancer. There we go. Dear gosh.
So regarding that choose life or choose death or whatever.
Yeah.
Can Bill and his crew ask the question, did God know what they would choose?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And how about this for a question? Could they make the choice independent of God?
No.
So could they choose life independent of God, or could they choose death independent of God? Could they make the choice independent of God?
Choose this day life. I'm just going to try and find it. It's Deuteronomy 30:19. The choice of life and death. Okay, so what we got here then? Reading the good old King James, because I know they love that one, don't they? The people who got the wrong Jesus, by the way. It says, I call heaven and earth as witness today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your descendants may live. So there we go. I guess that's probably Moses talking to the house of Israel, I guess. So choose life. There you go, see? Yeah. There you go, see? Yeah. It's choose life, so you got free will. Yeah. Poor old Bill, I do love him. He takes the piss out of me, and I take the piss out of him, all in the friendly way, of course. But I think if that's the only scripture you got to prove free will, then it's a free choice. It's a freedom of choice, but it's determined. That one is absolutely determined because you're dealing with the God of Israel. The God of Israel. Okay.
And the God of the universe.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The God of all.
The God of all.
He is the God of all.
Amen.
I'm so glad you came in, JG.
Oh, thank you for having me. I think I had the video up. Is that the right one? Are you pausing? You want to take a pause on that right now?
All it shows is us.
That's strange.
I don't think in the private chat, did you put it there, Ace? Oh, yeah, you have done, yeah. Yeah, private chat. Because I have some chap on the right hand. There's a nice chap on the right hand side. He's a nice guy, isn't he?
Well, I don't know what happened here.
Let me see.
I'll stop it and start it again, or screen share it again.
Go into the private, yeah.
It's called California's War on Farmers, right?
No, that's my title.
Oh, that's why I did it. Okay. Farmer explains why California flushes.
There you
go. Okay. You want to play it?
Are you done, Andy?
Off?
Yeah. I'll hang on until the wife comes in and says otherwise.
And we can interrupt this guy anytime we want and comment on it. So, what we have here, boys and girls, is a real farmer. He just happened to put on a necktie for us instead of his bibbed overalls. And he's talking about a lot of complicated stuff that's going on in the farming world over in California, and perhaps see it bleeding everywhere else too. And I love farmers these days. I grew up on a farm in the 60s, 700-acre farm in Virginia. And at the time, I was just a teenager. I thought farmers were stupid. And I was sure that the guys who wore neckties were the smart ones, right, in the world. And then, so as soon as I could, I got off the farm and became a necktie guy. And after spending 40 years in the necktie universe, I realized that the necktie guys know how to fill out paperwork. And that's it. But farmers, they have to know every damn thing about everything. And they're the ones who are our salvation. They have to deal with not just how to fill out the right paperwork, but they've got to deal with insects and weather and rain and microbiology and animal mating behavior and the seasons and the moon and the tides. And, they've got to, they're the brilliant ones, and they build civilization based on a concept called delayed gratification. Whereas the guys who are wearing neckties and filling out paperwork, they're into instant gratification. And it doesn't take very far to see that instant gratification is in the neighborhood of thieves and rotters, because thieves and rotters also believe in instant gratification. They don't know anything about delayed gratification. And farmers have to know about delayed gratification, because if they invest in an apple seed planting today, they're not going to get a crop for maybe 7 or 10 years. They're taking a gamble on many things. Anyway, so there's a bunch of paperwork people in California who are just ruining the future by destroying the farmers. And this guy explains the water problem in California, that it's not really a water problem. It's a regulation problem. It's a problem created by the paperwork pushers. Anyway, click play.
Go out to the ocean. There are many communities that either have no water or very little water. While we need that water, we're watching it go out to the ocean.
California farmers are getting pinched by the water shortage, and over 500,000 acres of land was fallowed last year.
There are at least a dozen major producers that have already gone out of business this year. They go somewhere else. They don't come back to California. They don't come back to farming, and it's going to get worse. As all these farms go out of business, our food security is going to be in danger.
My guest today is Mark Nakeda, a fourth-generation farmer, and he's the CEO of California United Water Coalition. Mark is here to give us an insider perspective on what farmers are facing in California and his efforts to save his family farm and tradition.
My own kids are wondering whether they should even try it, because they're saying, Dad, doesn't look like there's a future. And I can't tell them they're wrong.
I'm Siamai Korami. Welcome to California Insider.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
We had all this rain and you're a farmer, and
Yes.
you've been involved with the farming community in
Yes.
California. We had all this rain, and
Yes.
unfortunately, 95% of the water went through the delta. The pumps were not working over time, so
Right.
we lost a lot of this water in the
Right.
rain.
Right.
We want to get into all this and
Right.
discuss this with you.
Okay.
But can you tell us what's going on in the farming community right now in California?
Well, the farmers, on the one hand, are very thankful because of all the rain. Is the best blessing God could ever bestow upon us, and we're all super thankful. But it is disheartening to watch all that water go out to the ocean, because what we need is we need to capture that water, and here in the San Joaquin Valley, we need to put that water back in the ground. We need to fill our underground reservoirs. And so there are many communities that either have no water or very little water. There's a lot of wells that are going dry in the valley because there's not enough groundwater. And that has never been the case. It is now. And so while we need that water, we're watching it go out to the ocean. And so it's we're thankful for the water, but we're also dismayed, tremendously dismayed, that we can't capture more of it. And there is so much regulation that is keeping us from taking the water.
Now, tell us about what's been the impact of this drought on your community. Like,
Right.
so how do the farmers deal with this?
Right. Well, they've been trying. Most farmers have increased their efficiency in water usage by somewhere between 50 and 80%. In other words, they're 50 to 80% more efficient than they used to be. And it's all because they're trying to use less water. When our surface water got cut back to between 0 and 5%, we ended up having to start to pump more groundwater. And then when the surface water got taken from us and we could no longer recharge the groundwater, then it's put us in a very bad position. And just to let you know, last year there were over 732,000 acres that of farmland that went out of business, and the governor wants another 1 million acres to go out this year.
So meaning they didn't plant them, and are they going to come
Those farmers
back?
went out of business. No,
They went out of business.
no, there are at least a dozen major producers of table grapes, eggs, dried fruit, almonds, and several other commodities that have already gone out of business this year already. And it's going to get worse.
Is it because of water?
It's because of lack of water. It's because of overregulation. In some cases, it's because of low farm prices due to not being able to move the product. As an example, with almonds, we're having trouble shipping our almonds overseas because of all the ports problems and all that. And so all of these factors are coming together to really provide an impossible situation.
Oh, hit pause just for a second.
Unfortunately, as all these farms got a bit.
Hey, Andy, do these farmers have a free will, or are they being forced out?
Yeah. Well,
Do they have
I
a free
think-
will about walking away, or is it just like,
Yeah.
oh God?
yeah. Well, I think best ask Bill on that one. I think.
Farmers could
No.
stay, choose to grow
There we
food.
go. There we go. Yeah.
They could choose to grow food.
Yeah, almonds take a ridiculous amount of water to culture. I don't know if you knew
Mhm.
that. For what they produce, it's an extreme amount. But this really sounds like he's going into conspiracy. Whether he does or not, we'll see.
What the hell's wrong with conspiracy, baby? It's a conspiracy of the paper pushers against the guys with blisters on their hands.
Yeah, the paper pushers have so much more resource. That's the problem, right?
Right. They've got the guns and the water, apparently. Okay, hit play.
business, our food security is going to be in danger. And we've already seen it like with eggs. I mean, it's hard to find eggs, and
It's got a lot more expensive now. It's
yeah,
like,
and it's going to get worse. There's a gentleman who just hung it up, and he's one of the largest egg producers, and it was going to cost him $5 million to retrofit his operation to meet the current regulations, and he just decided to hang it up. I'm done.
to shut down the business.
Shut the business down.
Just real quick, you know, eggs are testosterone bombs, right?
Oh yeah.
The cholesterol breaks down to testosterone. That's what you see in Rocky when he's drinking the eggs. That's what he's doing. So that's a major food right now that's being controlled, and it has to do with actual masculinity.
That's right. The price has really shot up over in the UK. It's gone crazy.
And he's not coming back. And see, the thing is that when all these businesses shut down, they're great people that are skilled, they go somewhere else. And
Do
so
they go to other states?
or get involved in other businesses, but they don't come back to California. They don't come back to farming. And so even if these regulations were to be relaxed, we could not just turn the production back on because there's not the people. And unfortunately, there are at the universities, there are a lot of people that used to be studying agriculture that are now shifting and going into other things because they realize there's no future. So the brain drain in our industry will be lasting for a long, long time. And it's going to hurt.
Okay, pause.
Today's episode is sponsored by Birch Gold. Is the
So I love the word brain drain. And it shows up every once in a while in our world of political analysis. Back during the 60s, when England had a real high tax, they also created a brain drain. All the talented people left England, including Mick Jagger, who got sick of the taxation and left and moved to France. And so if you punish the talent enough, talent always walks away and does something else.
Yeah.
And when,
I'm thinking of going myself.
When he says that there's a brain drain in the farming community, it's a serious problem, because if the paper pushers, the bureaucrats, they come along and they say, look, we can buy cheap farmland now. Those goddamn paper pushers don't know how to run a farm. Running a farm is incredibly complicated. I mean, we have the division of labor for a reason. So you can't take a bureaucrat who only knows how to fill out paperwork and get him to do a dairy farm, an almond farm, a grape farm.
You get the farmer.
Each farm has its own little universe of information and knowledge and skill.
So you'd have to essentially hire farmer-minded people or former farmers if they still need to work, but then they have control and dictate which direction they go in. So they lose a little bit of their own autonomy and how they're running a farm. But you still need the farmer.
If you hire them back, to run your farm, you change the dynamics also, because when it's a government farm, like whenever the governments take over an industry, why then it changes the dynamics. The government doesn't have to make smart decisions. You can, as a employee of a government farm or a government car company, like remember the MG, Andy?
Yeah, in Oxford, just down the road from where I live, actually.
MG was a fine car at one time, but the government took it over. It became nationalized. And so the government took over the MG. And so the MG employees could come in late and go home early and take long lunch breaks and send cars out there to be sold that leaked oil.
Shocking. And
broke down. And nobody could punish them because you're a government employee. You get tenure. You can't be fired for producing a great car or bad car. But the
incentive is stripped away. Yeah.
The incentive to do a good job is stripped away when you're just an employee, as opposed to an owner.
Yeah, because like you're saying, a farmer has not only a personal investment; it's a total project for him. He's putting love into his farm, right? He's putting his
And his
all into it.
name and reputation is on the line
Yeah,
when it's his product. But when it's a government product, when the farm is owned by the government and they try to hire the farmers back, they're not going to get the same quality because you can't be fired
yeah. That's what
y-
you hear that
for
when
doing a lousy job.
people go to government agencies to try to get things. What is it like? Freedom of information requests, and it takes like weeks and months because no one's in a hurry. It's just they'll get it to you when they get it, and there's really no repercussion if they're not doing their job well. It's just that's the way it is. So
Mhm.
you've got these lazy-minded, unmotivated people working government jobs, and the long-term effect of that and the overall effect of that has its own consequences.
And both China and Russia, the Soviet Union, starved to death when they stole all the farms and thought the government could run the farms. Millions of people starved to death in those countries.
Wow. Shocking.
Okay, hit play. And this is an ad, so
The rising inflation at odds with your goals of securing your savings. Now, do you think there is a future in this space? Your family has been farming for many years, right?
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us more about your background with the farming?
Yes, I'm fourth generation Japanese American. My whole family has farmed for 120 years in this valley, so we have deep roots in the valley. We're very proud people, and it is really disheartening to see what's going on. I mean, my own kids are wondering whether they should even try it because they're saying, "Dad, doesn't look like there's a future," and I can't tell them they're wrong. So it's very hard because many of us work our whole lives to build what we have, and for our kids to not have that opportunity.
Ace, I got to go. Talk to you later,
really,
Ace.
okay,
Bye
bye,
for now.
Andy.
God bless you.
It's really hard on
See
your
you later,
soul.
JG. Bye-bye.
It really is. So
See ya.
it's not their fault. It's not our fault. As an example, this water thing is it's a regulation problem.
So, in terms of the farming community in California, you mentioned that a bunch of farmers went out of business, and you're saying this is not going to come back.
Right.
It takes time for
Right.
it. What's been the impact to the community? Are you losing?
Well, as an example, the four grape growers I'm talking about, they're all from Delano and Arvin, and each one of these companies has been around at least 60 years, and some 100 years, and they've decided to just hang it up. We're done, and so that's going to take 25,000 acres of table grapes out of production. And so when table grape prices are higher this summer, when there's times when you can't find table grapes in the store, that'll be the reason why. Because it's becoming impossible. It costs somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000 an acre to farm table grapes. That's a lot of
Why
money.
is that? Is it because of the water? What are the regulations?
It's water. It's labor. It's regulations. They've taken away a lot of the inputs we used to be able to use. As an example, our fertilizer has gone up 4 times. You can't have a 4-fold increase in fertilizer and keep prices the same. It doesn't work. What happens in farming is that farmers try to way to cut back. They cut back. But when you get to bone and you're cutting on bone, there's nothing else to cut back. And that's what these poor guys are. Is they've cut everything back they can. They can't cut anything else out, and they still can't make it. And so when that happens to you, you got to hang it up because you're not going to make it. And that's what's going on. And so whether you're water, that's kind of like the last straw. You know what I mean? Because right now what farmers are facing is not only are they paying fees, which range from anywhere from $25 to $250 an acre, but they're paying on average $500 an acre foot for water over their allotment. So let's say your allotment is 2 acre feet, and it takes 4.5 acre foot to farm table grapes, right?
Hmm.
So you have to pay 500 times 2.5
To buy the rest.
to buy the rest of the water. So that's the penalty. Now, some districts are going to charge you for the additional water on top of that. So it's going to be between $1,250 and $2,500 an acre for the extra water. There's not anywhere near that kind of money in it. I mean, a farmer's going to be lucky on a regular year. He might make $150, $200 an acre. So when you're talking about those kind of numbers, he's going backwards so fast. There's no
It's
way.
not worth it. So some people argue, why don't they plant something else?
Yeah.
Is that doable?
Yeah. Well, so that's fine, but when like a lot of growers, when they plant a crop, a permanent crop, let's say trees or vines or something like that.
Like
It's just-
almonds, because a lot of people
almonds,
complain that almonds
yeah,
get a lot of
there
water.
you go. So it's going to cost you somewhere between $8,000 and $20,000 to bring that almond from the time that you plant it to production. So you got that investment. So when you have that kind of investment in a crop, it is hard to just yank it out because you're going to lose all that money, all that investment. And then what happens is your bank's looking at you saying, what the heck are you doing? Like, you got all this invested and you're going to pull it out. Your land value is going to drop. How are you going to pay us back?
Do the farmers have a lot of loans on their land?
Oh, absolutely. Most farmers have a crop loan every year. So let me give you another example. Let's say like several of the growers in a coalition, okay? Let's say they have, I'm just going to use round numbers, okay? Let's say a grower has 1,000 acres, okay? And let's say that he's got a $8 million crop loan, okay? Every year, what he has to do is he has to pay that $8 million back to be able to borrow it again. And what happens is banks watch that stuff very closely because they're super regulated by the feds. So they can't have bad loans on the books. So you have to find a way to pay your loan back so that you can reborrow it. Because, it's going to cost you between $2,500 and like table grapes, $35,000 an acre to farm. Most growers don't have that kind of money. That's a lot of money.
So you have to borrow the money
So
to
you
do
have to
that.
borrow the money.
Why did I choose the Springwell whole house water filter system for my family? My family means everything to me.
And then if you can't pay back, what will happen?
You lose your farm. They foreclose on you. And most almond farmers, they haven't been paid for at least 2 years, some 3 years. So all the money they thought they had, the money they saved up has gone to pay the banks back, right? Well, the crop is still in the shed. Because with the logistics and stuff, we can't move it. So even if we have orders, we can't sell it.
Meanwhile, the cost is going up because of the water. The water cost has gone up.
Well,
right?
not only that, these almonds, you can't store them in room temperature. So you have to put them in cold storage or store them. So you're paying every month the cold storage bill. So that just reduces your potential profit. So it's hard right now. It is really, really hard. And this water penalties and stuff. I mean, it's really just the final straw for a lot of growers. It is just the final straw.
Now, why do you think this water went into the ocean? Like there's a Supreme Court ruling. Can you explain what's happening?
Great question. So between January 1st and January 18th, an average of 300,000 acre feet of water went out the Sacramento River to the ocean every day. Every day.
Which was a lot more than, because
Yeah.
of the rain, we had a lot more,
Yeah.
right?
So like I was talking to Darcy about Diamond Valley Lake down here. Okay, that's 1 million acre feet. It would have took 3 days to fill the whole thing.
To fill the lake with the extra water.
3 days. Okay. Well, what happened is that Governor Newsom in his infinite wisdom, decided that he didn't like the Trump policy that was coming down in 2019, which has since been rescinded by the Biden administration. So he created this temporary transfer law. And what it says is that if you want to take water, what you have to do is you have to provide sufficient flow for the smelt for a minimum of 14 days, which is 25,000 acre feet per day. Well, they didn't give us any credit for it being 300 because they need at least 25. So the first 14 days, the reason all that water ran out to the ocean is because of this rule. And then Governor Newsom extended it another 5 days on top of that. Now, keep in mind, it's to protect the smelt, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they haven't been able to find a smelt in the Sacramento River in years.
Yeah, the numbers is almost instinct. The numbers.
They can't find it. You want to know why?
It's a good question. They are saying it's because of the pump, because of...
That's a lie. There's this, okay, the smelt is not a natural species. It's introduced invasive species. There's another invasive species that eats the smelt, and that's the stripers. Now, I don't know if you know much about striped bass, but they're like, in fresh water, they're like great white sharks. They don't ever get full. They just keep eating. Like if you were to ever go to a lake that has striped bass in it, and they chase this thing called shad, which is a bait fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like smelt. It's cousin to smelt, right? And if you watch it, these striped bass will chase this shad around. This shad is so scared of the stripers, they literally will come out, will fly 10 feet out of the water to get away from the stripers. Because stripers just decimate the population. Like, it's just crazy what they do. And so these stripers, they were saying, oh, well, we need to improve the habitat for the smelt so they can hide from the striper. No. Once that striper's on that smelt, that striper's going to get the smelt. I promise you that. He will get them. So there is no escape.
So now, there was a Supreme Court ruling that limited the number of hours the water can be pumped out of it. So is that the cause of us letting the water down to the ocean? And
that's part of it. Yeah. So there was this ruling by Judge Wagner, who's a federal judge, and Judge Wagner ruled that we need to protect the smelt. But like I said, smelt is not a native species, so we're not helping the habitat, helping the.
Hey, wasn't Wagner the People's Court?
I don't know.
Never mind.
Environment. It was just an excuse. It was an excuse to stop the pumping because the special interests don't want us pumping. Okay. Well, so what it is, and I'm going to get back to this, is that, okay, this 300,000 acre feet going out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what the total, if we're running the federal pumps and the state pumps at 100%, you know how much water we pump?
How much?
31,000 acre feet.
So only 10%.
Maximum. That's when the pumps are going 100%.
And this water is coming to go to your
and this water
farms to Central
This
Valley.
water comes down the aqueduct,
Mm-hmm.
and it either goes into San Luis, or it comes to the valley, or it goes to LA. Right? Well, our LA brothers are losing their Colorado River water, at least to a great extent of it. So they need water. We need water to fill the underground water supply in the San Joaquin Valley. So you guys need water down here. We need water in the San Joaquin Valley.
Come to TurboTax.
And our illustrious governor has decided, well, pumping 4,000 acre feet a day is enough.
So we were doing 4,000. We had the capacity to do 31,000, and we had about 300,000 going out.
Yeah, so 300,000 going out. Now the feds were pumping full blast. Their pumps can pump 8,000.
You noticed ads They even fit in ads for the 5 seconds when you skip it. They got that in there. Come to TurboTax. They made sure that was in there. It's clever.
1,000 cubic feet, acre feet per day. They're pumping 8,000 acre feet a day. Those federal pumps are blowing and going.
And where are they going?
They're 100%. They're going into the aqueduct.
Okay.
So this water that's coming down the aqueduct is not coming from the state. It's coming from the feds.
So the feds were supplying the water to you guys.
Feds are pumping full blast.
But the California state is it because of that court ruling that it limits it to 4,000?
It was because of Gavin Newsom's ruling. So California is under a state of emergency, right? Still,
Yeah.
from Corona, right? Gavin Newsom, if he wanted to set that aside,
He could do it.
he could do it right now. He could have did it on day one. And we'd be pumping 31,000 acre feet a day instead of 8 or 10.
Now,
And so what it is that we could use the water in the San Joaquin Valley badly. We badly need that
how
water.
much that water could help you guys if we were to do it for a few days? Like,
It would help tremendously, because you got to remember that California growers in general, right, will overpump somewhere between 5 and 8 million acre feet.
mhm.
Okay. And so what happens is when we get rain, it fills some of that back, but we're still upside down. We still have a deficit. So what we need to do is we need to fill this underground water supply. So part of it will come from the aqueduct. That would help. The other part that would help is this flood water. You know, the water that comes out of the mountains, right? As an example, I will tell you in Madera County, there were what's called the East Side Bypass. And what that is, that's a flood control measure. Like when too much water comes down out of the mountains, this bypass takes the water out so that it doesn't flood the towns. Okay. Do you know that the farmers can't touch that water?
Why not?
Because the state board will only allow you to take water if they approve your permit. So if it's going to cost you $6,000 to apply. It takes you 8 to 10 months to get an answer back.
When the
By
rain
that
is
time,
already gone.
It's gone.
So you have to apply for the hope of the rain in.
What farmers are doing today is they're putting pumps in the bypass and they're taking the water. They're just doing it because it's what needs to happen. Now, they're not getting credit. So, we talked about the penalties, getting charged $500 an acre foot. So these growers are going to face this $500 penalty per acre foot in the summertime, and they're still pumping the water. You know why? Because they know they need to rebuild their underground water supply. So the growers at their own expense are doing what they need to do with no help from the state. It costs between $2,000 and $3,000 a day just in diesel to run a pump.
Dang, is he outing his buddies?
Wow.
That's kind of harsh if they've been paying attention to that, and now they are.
And God bless those
And a lot
farmers
of-
who are dropping their own pumps into there and just taking the water.
Take the hit, risk the hit, because you got to do it. Even if you get hit with that fine, it's still worth it. It's
Mhm.
rough.
These pumps have 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of these growers have 2, 3, 4, 5 pumps going. They're spending between $6,000 and $10,000 a day
To do this.
to do this.
Because
their
they
own
want
expense.
to make sure that they have the water. Because they've kind of, it seems like you guys have lost any hope in our state government.
Yeah.
Is that
See, and farmers are very resilient people. And if you leave a farmer alone, he will do what he needs to do. Farmers were the first environmentalists, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting. You guys have the environmentalists. There's a clash, right? They have the say in the state. But from another perspective, the farmers are really close to the environment.
My friend Darcy makes a good point, and that is this. Farmers are the true environmentalists. she calls these other groups, like the smelt protectors, special interests, because they're not trying to protect the environment. They're trying to make money. So these groups, they make millions and millions of dollars filing lawsuits, and they win a lot of them. And so it's a money-making venture. And then they take the money and they pass it out amongst some of the politicians. And so the politicians end up siding with the special interests. So you got politicians and special interests against the farmers. That's what you have today. And so what I'm saying is that we need the good people of California to stand up with us and push back, because the one thing that we do have is we do have a constitution. We have a Bill of Rights in this country. So if we all decide we're going to vote a certain way, it doesn't matter how much money the special interests have. They're still going to lose the ballot box.
Go ahead and pause it.
So what are you guys, the farmers, doing about it?
Yeah, so his solution is to vote. No, I don't think that's going to work. You're not going to get
Oh yeah, right. Vote for the
you're not going to get the vast majority of people to vote on the side of the farmers. Nobody's even understands.
So
the
now we're
problem.
searching for the magic.
What the hell?
Oh, Tesla. That's a cool picture, actually. Tesla reading a book down there by that generator.
Yeah.
You know, I was just thinking, it's just total control, right? They're controlling the water, which obviously affects the food. They're controlling the sunlight through the chemical trails in the sky. They're controlling people's oxygen, the air they breathe with the masks. It's all there. This is too much.
Yeah, so for those who are hip to the problem, I don't see that voting is going to solve anything. So you might as well get used to growing stuff in your own backyard, because if this keeps going, and it will, farmers who stick around to continue will probably have to go to learn no-till farming, mob grazing, and using cover crops to harvest the rainwater and keep it from running off of their property. So it's a different style of farming that will be coming as a solution, or just to get into old-fashioned dry farming, which is not as productive, but at least the farmers can feed themselves and a small community around them. But there is such a thing as dry farming. And
yeah, and maybe these farmers out of work be hired as coaches in communities to show people how to do small farming on their own land. Perhaps. I mean, because this is getting real. I remember this being talked about a decade ago. Monsanto in their control with the farming, but now it's getting real.
Way back in the 1800s, Frederick Bastiat almost got a law passed in France. He did it as a spoof, but this law was to protect the candle makers of France. And the law almost went through their Congress. And it said that everybody has to put shutters on their house and keep the shutters closed during the daytime, so there wouldn't be any daylight coming into the house. So they would have to use candles to protect the candle industry.
Serious control issues.
Well, he did it as a joke, but the joke was that it almost passed.
Yeah, right. That's the scarier part of that joke.
And so, in looking at this, I think it's a bigger solution to this problem would not be the voters of California, because you can't depend on them to understand or vote in the right kind of way. It would be the heavy hitters, the people in Long Island, New York. They should get on board with this thing and say, what the fuck are you guys doing? And pressure Gavin Newsom and the paper pushers of California to knock it off, because as this keeps up, Trader Joe's in Long Island are going to be empty of almonds and grapes.
Yeah, to start, I think it's more like you originally opened with a few minutes ago, is you have to distance yourself from the governing body. The voting is not really going to do any good. You see the same thing decade after decade, century after century. Really, it's about becoming independent, and if that means, one small step at a time, day by day, so be it. Even if you don't feel like you have time or energy or effort to grow your own garden, make some efforts to see if there's someone in the community that is able to start that, and you can fund them. But it's going to be a point where people are going to feel this, no matter who they are.
Yeah, throughout the farming world, those guys with big acreages, like 1,000 acres, they only make about $300 per acre with all of that big setup. But you can, if you get rid of the tractor and all the equipment and just do it by hand, you would only need 1 acre, and you could make $100,000 on 1 acre. But you can't sell your crops to Walmart and Trader Joe's. You'd have to build your own customer base.
Yeah, I think
just imagine it. So the dynamics are going, it's predictable to say that the dynamics are going so that food is going to come locally. When Long Island, New York cannot expect to get stuff out of California very much longer. Food will go local.
Yeah, and this sounds negative, but who knows if they just start outlawing that for whatever reasons? Because
they will.
They can always find ways. I mean, you heard him talking about making that huge variation in the water supply to protect the smelt. Like the absurdity of trying to protect the smelt that are not going to be protected by the hungry fish as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
You see the levels they work on.
Do you remember the days 20, 30 years ago when they were all about the spotted owl? Yeah, they were trying to protect the spotted owl in California and Oregon, because they forbid tree growers to harvest their trees because they were trying to protect the spotted owl, and so they destroyed a lot of lumber by keeping those tree farmers from harvesting their lumber. But it turns out that it wasn't the trees and harvesting the trees that was killing off the spotted owl. It was a larger owl called the barned owl that was killing off the spotted owl as their competition. Anyway, so there's this government department that nobody's ever heard of called the Department of Unintended Consequences. You can't get fired from that department. It's
yeah. Well, do you think the government is overall, when you look at the government, do you think of them as incompetent, or do you think of them doing these things by design?
They're mostly incompetent. And we can see that in the Tower of Babel. It was a big idea. Let's build this tower.
So you think the intention's there, the right intention is typically there, but it's just a matter of capability.
All governments employ incompetent, inept morons to run the department.
Well, that sounds like it's by design. If the management knows who they're hiring, they say, look.
It's the wrong setup altogether. A friend of mine's father used to work in government in Boston, I believe it was. And this guy wanted to do a good job. And he did something or another. I don't remember the whole story, but he did something or another to save the city of Boston like $10 million in expenses just by doing this as opposed to that. And he got demoted and punished for saving the city $10 million because their whole design of government is to spend money, not to save money and operate efficiently. And he got demoted and put down in the basement of, he was given a basement office instead of, rewarded for saving the city so much money.
So if you have a business where you hire the workers, you obviously want to hire competent people that do good customer service and grow your business. But if you're a governing body and you're in control of hiring, you're like, well, I extract money from people. I don't create anything. And I redistribute that money. So I want to hire people who are incompetent, creating more problems so that I can continue my game.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing.
Right. So according to my instant assessment here, the only solution for California is for the wealthy who live on Long Island, New York, to put pressure on the governing body of California to knock it off. Otherwise, those Trader Joe's are going to be empty. In Long Island, are you listening, Long Island? Martha's Vineyard, you better pay attention.
Frequency. And we start with 100 hertz, and we look through the microscope to see if anything's happening. We want
this. I think it seems like you guys have lost the connection to the state leaders.
Yes.
Because for whatever reason,
Yes.
and I personally don't think the state leaders would do these things on purpose. It's kind of probably they don't understand what they're doing. My perspective on this is that they may not know what they're signing. They sign something, they see the research, they see the science.
Right.
But what are you guys doing?
Super question. Great question. So what it is,
and there's another perspective is that it could be that people look at the farming industry and they say, this is 3% of the state's economy.
Right.
It's not that big of a deal.
One more
I'd
thing.
rather talk about the technology or this.
So there is another motivational force going on here, speaking of free will and no free will. Ever since World War II, when tractor farming became a big thing, big farming became a big thing, there are less farmers now in the world. And so the government wants to pay attention to the voting population, right? And so it used to be that even on the census, you would check off what type of employment you had, and farming was a checkbox a long time ago, but it's not even on the checkbox anymore. So relatively speaking, there aren't any farmers. So why should we pay attention to farmers? They're not voters. There's only eight of them. What the hell do we care about these 8 people when we can and must care about the 8 million who are voters? And the 8 million don't know what the hell's going on, but
Yeah,
so
sure.
That dynamic is pressing in there too.
If they're hungry, eating crap food, then they're more likely to vote the way we want to sway them too, right? I don't know. It's just they don't want people to be doing well. If people are doing well, there's less need for government in general.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that aspect in a very general sense. If there's not enough problems, government is going to lose its job. So I see a government who welcomes problems one way or the other. And if, like you said, they're hiring incompetent people, that makes sense because that's a problem.
Right.
So what are you guys doing, or what can you guys do about this?
Great. So what we're doing is, on the one hand, we are asking our friends and neighbors, like Metropolitan Water District, we're asking them to alert their constituents about the problem. And what we need at least half of the voters of the state to stand with us and vote for water infrastructure, vote to set aside these environmental regulations so that we can do the things we need to do, like pump the flood water. I mean, the only thing standing between pumping the flood water and us is the state board, which is all appointed by Governor Newsom. There's appointees. And so if he told them, hey, let the farmers pump the water, that would put millions of acre
Because we
feet.
have a flood. There's all this water coming out of
We're flooded.
We have extra water.
Go on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of thing that we should be able to do very easily. And if you give the farmers the water, they know what to do with it. But if they can't access it, there's no way, right? So what I'm saying is that the good people of California have the opportunity to stand up and be heard. They need to take it. And so what it is, we'll provide the leadership, but we need the people to stand with us. And that's really what this comes down to. And it doesn't matter whether it's water, doesn't matter whether it's crime, doesn't matter whether it's inflation, it doesn't matter whether it's CRT, all this woke stuff. I mean, you pick your subject. If the voters stand together, stand united, right? If the voters stand united, we can still push back because we still have a Constitution and a Bill of Rights, at least so far. And really, at the end of the day, this is really a fight between good and evil, isn't it? I mean, you know, all of these things that happen in China are just horrifying to me. I can't believe the Chinese Communist Party could treat its people the way it does. I'm blown away. I don't understand how you could treat another human being like that, right? And what I'm worried about is if we don't stand and fight for our country, we're going to end up like that. None of us want that. Now, here's the second part of that story, is that food security matters. When we give up our food security, then we are giving up control of our country to others.
So when you said there was about 700,000 plus acres of farmland that went out of business
last year. Yeah.
Last year, where does the food come from? Does this go to? Are we relying on other countries to provide the food? Is it South America?
Yeah, we're importing more now this year than we did last year because of that. Now, I tell you what'll happen this year is not only will there be, like, let's say, less almonds, there's going to be less grapes, there's going to be less stone fruit, there's going to be less milk,
So
there's
the
going to be
food
less
prices
chickens
will go up, right?
on everything. I mean, food prices, if this all happens, food prices will at least double, maybe triple.
What about the state leaders? You know, it's hard to understand that. Have you guys had any dialogue with the legislatures?
A little bit.
It's hard to understand that they couldn't see this, or
Well, some of them do, which is why they wrote all those letters to the governor about the water. So we're having this meeting on the 18th, and we're gonna meet with several politicians, and they're gonna take our message back to the legislature. There's a lot of new legislators, and they need to get educated on what's really going on.
it's complicated.
It's
a complex
it's
issue.
very
it takes a lot of studying.
Right. And so it can't just be us. It has to be other legislators who are veterans, who understand the subject and can speak to their fellow legislators about what's really going on. It has to be, it's like anything else. There needs to be a group effort. It can't just be one person or this person or that. As an example, Darcy and some of her water experts are going to be at this February 18th meeting. And their job at the meeting is to educate these politicians on really the deep workings of water. So as an example.
So you guys are having your coalition, which you created this coalition, right?
Yes.
To actually organize people to bring this message to the state leaders.
Yes.
And you're bringing water experts.
A new global alliance is rising, but it is not a union between countries. It is an alliance between
Together.
Yes.
And you have a meeting in a few weeks with the
Yes.
state leaders, right?
Yes. Yes. And so when I say a coalition, I really mean a coalition. So we have two groups of water experts. These are water engineers. These are hydrologists. These are some of the best water people on the planet. They live here in California, believe it or not. I mean, they're world renowned. And they're part of these groups. And to have those guys in your corner, to have them explain to you not only the history of water in the state, but how we can solve these problems. You can't help but wonder, well, how come these guys aren't running this? Because obviously they're total experts. Meanwhile, the governor has his appointees. As an example, the chairman, he doesn't have a background in water. He was an English major in college, for God's sakes. He's not a water expert. Come on. We need people who are pros, the best of the best, right? It doesn't matter whether it's water or any of these other subjects. What you want is you want the best. In California, in California, we have a lot of really, really talented people that do all kinds of things.
We have the most innovative people here. A lot of innovation here.
Exactly. Why don't we take advantage of it?
Now, have you ever thought about quitting in this process? Because it seems to be painful, right? And you kind of see where things are headed. Have you ever thought about quitting?
I think about it every day. Every day. I think about it every day, but I really feel like that I would not be doing my family and my people justice if I just give up. So I got to see it through. I have to. My grandfather was my hero. His father was an immigrant. His father, because he was a Japanese immigrant, could not own property. So when my grandfather was born, my great-grandfather put all his property under my grandfather's name. Then when the Great Depression came, he went bankrupt. But he didn't go bankrupt under his name. He went bankrupt under my grandfather's name. It took my grandfather until 1967 or 68. But he paid back every penny of that debt. Not that he had to, but it was the right thing to do. And it was personally important to him to pay it back. I can't quit because of our family's legacy. That would be dishonoring my grandfather. I won't do it. I won't do it. I have to see this through. That's just me.
Mark Nakada, multi-generational farmer and California United Water Coalition leader. It's great to have you on California Insider.
Thank you. It was wonderful to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
We want to ask you to sign up to our California Insider email list. You will receive.
I like how we went warrior at the end. That was cool. Seeing it through. Rough. Very rough. But look, Ace, I actually got to roll.
Thanks for coming in and helping.
Yeah, I'll see you next time. Take care.
Okay. Okay, now is your time, boys and girls, to sneak in here and keep me company for a little bit. Dirty varmint, get your butt in here. So let's see. Recapping. Shall we recap? Yeah, sure. Okay. 95% of all famines throughout history are caused by government regulation. They're not caused by drought and insects and, swarms of locusts. But they're caused by regulation altogether. How you doing, Dirty Varmint? Nice to see you.
Thanks. How's it going?
Fine. I like you.
I like you. You're all right, Ace.
So I get a kick out of seeing your post in the side chats, even though you're an opposer to our Pauline Evangel. You're actually a recipient of grace nonetheless.
All right, fair enough. And your good works, I think you probably earned your way into heaven.
That's hilarious, being that I don't believe that we can earn a damn thing. How'd you like that video?
Yeah, that was all right. I'm pretty angry about the government,
Uh-huh.
I think that free land is our first and most important God-given right. That's
Well,
what I
there's
think.
plenty of it, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, why are we all stuck paying rent and mortgage for land we inherited by our founding fathers? Well, we inherited by God, but our founding fathers fought and died for it, and now we all got to pay rent and mortgage on our inheritance. Like, what's up with that?
It's a ruse, huh?
Yeah, we're all slaves, makes us all wage slaves for rent. Got to get a job, pay the rent, half your paycheck goes straight to rent. The other half goes to taxes.
Yeah. Do you grow anything?
Yeah.
Cool. Are you a guerrilla gardener or a backyard gardener?
A guerrilla garden. Well, no, I'm just a closet gardener.
Oh, I heard about this one guy who was his friend came over to visit. They hadn't seen each other in a while, and he says, "Hey, you got any new hobbies?" He says, "Yeah, I'm keeping bees." And he said, "Oh yeah,
Keeping
where?" He said, "Right here in the closet." He says, "Show me." And he said, opened the closet, and there was a baggie of like a dozen bees in there. They were dead, of course. And he said, "They die in there. What the hell?" He said, "They're just bees."
Nice.
That's an old joke. I don't even know why
I
it's
don't
funny.
get it. They're just bees.
Do you know about guerrilla gardening?
Like out in the woods?
There's a kind of a little movement across the country to do guerrilla gardening, and it's just gardening on property that you don't own.
Yeah.
Like
I've heard of that.
abandoned lots,
Uh-huh.
And sometimes it could be simple as just throwing seeds out there and seeing what happens. But there are guerrilla gardeners who take over an abandoned lot and just turn it into this really beautiful little farm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
The guy, one of the big voices of the guerrilla gardening movement, is some black guy out of Los Angeles, and he got a nasty letter from the city government with the words criminal violations or something, because he didn't cut the park strip, between the curb and the sidewalk. He didn't cut that grass because it was owned by the government. And his attitude was, if it's you own it, you cut it. And they said, you must cut the grass. So he said, well, screw this. He just planted a bunch of flowers and vegetables out there. And then he got a letter harassing him for growing flowers and vegetables on that park strip. And they, with the words criminal violation, for growing flowers and vegetables in that park strip. So he went to the media and got a big show of it, So the city government of Los Angeles had to back down. And he even has a TED Talk video about how to do guerrilla gardening and how he and his community do it. Because in his community in South Central LA, there's a lot of abandoned properties there. And they've turned it into an oasis, a Garden of Eden.
Nice.
And he said one time he caught some people stealing vegetables out of that park strip.
Uh-huh.
He stepped out and he said, hey, don't feel guilty. I grew it for you. Keep getting it. Take all you want.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah. And there's a YouTube channel called Urban Farming. And put out by a brother named Curtis Stone. And he teaches people how to knock on doors and say, hey, I see you got a large backyard. Why don't you let me farm it? You can have all the vegetables you want out of the garden, and I'll take the rest. And so he uses no-till methods and shows people step by step how to turn people's backyards into a beautiful garden. And, you know, his methods also get about $100,000 worth of crops a year out of an acre of people's backyards.
Huh. Yeah, I've
So if
been
they-
thinking about gardening, you know, but there's something about the rows that I don't like. And so I was thinking if you could have a vegetable garden, but have it landscaped and planted more like a flower garden, so it looks nice instead of just rows upon rows.
Right. That row idea, we inherited that row idea from the tractor universe because the tractors need space to drive down the rows, right?
Uh-huh.
But the no-till guys who don't use tractors, they don't make rows, they make beds, 36 inches
Okay.
across or 48 inches across. As long as you can reach from each side to the middle, then you can manage it. So they don't waste any space with rows.
Uh-huh.
They use garden beds,
Nice.
big wide beds. So that's more of your idea. Or maybe you could blend
Yeah,
your idea with
I guess I'm just thinking more small scale, like personal garden
yeah.
in the backyard, you know, like instead
Mhm.
of having rows down the middle of the yard, I'd want all the plants to be kind of like at the edge, you know, in a big line going around, all curved, kind of like a flower garden, but
Yeah, like
just
the
vegetable.
English flower gardens.
Yeah. Well, I guess. I don't really know what the English flower garden looks like.
You want to pull it up? Do a search on YouTube for English flower garden and bring up a video. Got a little something in my throat. Hang on. The secret to gardening, boys and girls, is debris. What do I mean by debris? That would be wood chips or straw or leaves or grass clippings. So you keep putting the debris on top of the soil, and it turns out to be very good for the soil because it keeps it warm in the winter and cool in the summer. It accommodates, that debris accommodates earthworms and microbes, and it turns into very nice soil. It may take a couple of years, but you can take a really hard pan of soil and keep debris on top of it. And it turns it the worms actually become your own little, you know, plow guy, because they'll dig up and take a bite of the wood chips or whatever, pull it back down. And so they're cycling through and making the whole thing, you know, very fluffy. Instead of you taking a fork and or a plow and ripping up everything, because when the problem with the plows is that they disturb the microbes and the biology down there. They kill it off, which is why we have the Dust Bowls. Do you remember the Dust Bowls of the 1930s?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that's because they were
No,
using
no.
plows. All those good minerals were just blowing away in the wind.
No, that was before my time.
But we're seeing Dust Bowls show up again just recently, like 6 months ago. I saw some videos of the Dust Bowls happening because they're still doing a lot of tractor farming out there, baby. Anyway, I thought this was a good video to show you that there are things going on in the world that are complicated. And the people who run the world with their paperwork, they have no idea what they're doing.
I know, man. What do? I say we should move to Japan.
Okay.
You know, they've got the best looking gardens.
They do have good looking gardens. You ever heard about Mansunubu Fukuoka?
No, but it sounds awesome.
He was a farmer in the 60s and 70s. And he became kind of famous in the late 70s and 80s with his farming methods. And he wrote a book and has some videos called The One Straw Revolution. And so he was growing rice just like the neighbor farmers were, but they would flood the fields and he would not flood his fields. Instead, he flooded his fields with straw.
Really?
And his rice would give him, as I remember, like 100 grains of rice per plant, whereas the neighbors were only getting 70 grains of rice per plant.
Nice.
And the difference was he was using straw instead of flooding the fields.
Huh, that's cool.
So in the 80s, when I became interested in farming again, I was a little student of Mansunubu Fukuoka, and me and my backyard farming.
Fukuoka?
His first name was Mansunubu.
Oh,
His last name was Fukuoka.
nice. They
And we
got cool names.
Yeah, we called him the Fook. I'm using the Fuchs method to grow this.
Nice.
And so there's still videos of him being interviewed on YouTube from the 80s. And guys around the world who used the Fuchs method to grow stuff, and it's basically debris. He called it the One Straw Revolution, and I would include wood chips and grass clippings and anything else that you would normally throw away. It's very important to put it back in the soil and leave it there. Don't even put it in the soil; just put it on top of the soil to protect the soil. Gabe Brown is a farmer who uses this method on a large scale. He's got 1,000 or 2,000 acres in Wyoming, and he calls it a blanket. No, he calls it armor for the soil.
Yeah.
Because it protects the soil from the wind and the erosion and the freezing cold and the hot summers. He calls it armor.
Got to get some kind of shredder or chipper or something.
No, you don't need that. No, just lay it down.
Okay.
And the microbes and the earthworms will take care of it. They'll munch it up. Put them to work. In what state do you live?
Oh, me in Montana.
Oh man. So you have to deal with the cold weather too, huh?
Yeah.
So you're up there with Jamie Russell?
I don't know. Where's he at?
He's in Montana somewhere. I think close to Idaho.
Okay. Oh, I think he's in Washington, or I thought I heard him mention he grew up in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's in Montana. That's cool.
So you have a short growing season there.
Yeah.
So you'd have to make use of greenhouses to extend your growing season. Do you have enough land for a greenhouse?
Well, yeah, definitely.
You can also get a head start if you don't have money to buy a greenhouse or put one together by using these things, water bottles.
How do you do that?
You cut the bottom off, right? And you plant the little seed, and then you cover it over, and this acts like a little greenhouse, a miniature greenhouse.
So you can plant them early? Is that what?
Yeah, you can plant them early.
Nice.
And there's some videos on YouTube called, if you do a search for winter sowing, there's some gals who get a big head start by using milk jugs and water bottles to get an early start.
Uh-huh.
And you can even buy on Amazon or elsewhere something called a cloche, CLOCHE. And it's just either a plastic dome to cover it. And they even sell glass cloches And they look really beautiful. And it turns out that even back in the 1850s, there's photographs of farmers from Paris in 1 acre farms in Paris, and they had rows and rows of glass garden clutches to extend their growing season for the vegetables.
Nice. You know, I don't have a personal garden with vegetables, in the yard. I'd like to, but I
Well,
don't know.
it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's still time.
You're right. It's never too late.
Never too late, baby.
Oh, I got somebody at the door. I gotta go.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks.
So get out there and plant something, baby. Grow something, baby. Not only will you perhaps solve the problem that we were just discussing about food security, but also it's a spiritual thing to grow things. And there are plenty of references in the Bible about growing as metaphors for this spiritual journey we're on. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and be sure and give me a thumbs up and leave comments. And in the comments section, if you find any good gardening videos, leave a link to them too. Curtis Stone or Elliot Coleman or The Market Gardener, or there's a bunch of good guys out there teaching people how to grow in their backyards. And if you want to get bigger, you can watch Gabe Brown or Joel Saladin, or Greg Judy. Greg Judy is a cattle rancher in Missouri. And he was going bankrupt using the old-fashioned cattle production methods until he discovered mob grazing. And he bailed himself out of bankruptcy with mob grazing. And he now owns or controls about 1,000 acres in Missouri. And he moves his cows around once or twice a day. And to just eat the grass down only so far. And then 90 days later, he brings the cows back to the same spot, and the grass is all grown up and ready to be chomped again. And it turns out that grass-fed beef is better for you, and grass-fed cattle don't fart. And all those people who are worried about cow farts causing global warming, and well, that's all because of factory farming, because they don't do mob grazing with factory farming cattle. Oh yeah, permaculture pastures. Yeah, that's really a nice topic to get into. Permaculture backyards too. Okay, that's all she wrote. And I'll do a post chat link and exit stage right. Thanks for joining me, boys and girls. Grace to you.